As I said in my last video, the next step is we need to kind of set up a level flow so that while you're testing your game, you always can cycle through the game, going from start screen to gameplay area to end screen and then back to the start screen. You might recognize that as the exact same level flow that we used in the number guess game. Now, I'm not going to show you this next step because I'm pretty sure you are completely capable of it. But what I need you to do is go into your number guess game, find your script called Scene Loader, and open it up. Copy everything inside of it. You don't have to do anything special. Just select it all, and then Control C to copy, and then you can close that down, reopen this project, and then you'll create a new script in here called Scene Loader. We could do and export the package of all the information in the original game, but I feel like it's unnecessary. It's an extra step. So just copy and paste into a new script. So make sure that your script, whenever you get it into your game, looks like it has all the pieces. So let me just go ahead and open this up real quick while I have you here, and we'll double check that everything looks the way it should. And if you need to double check this script, it should be in my GitHub, but it's the very simple code from the very beginning, and you all succeeded at that, so I'm sure you'll be okay here. So with this loaded, what you should have here is these four different namespaces. So we've got the three that are standard, and then we added using Unity Engine.Scene Management. We have public voids for load next scene, play again, and quit game. We did that so that we could use them to apply to buttons, which we're going to create again in this game. So as long as your script looks like this, you should be good. And remember, it's called sceneloader.cs if you're still looking for it. I'm just going to minimize that. Actually, I'm just going to close it because I don't need to mess with that anymore. We need to create a start screen, and we're going to fancy it up just a little bit whenever we do it this time. Because I know I want my start screen to have the same color background as my first level, just because I like consistency, I'm going to just duplicate this level. So if I click on level 1, I could right click, but I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate, or Command D in my case, and then just go ahead and open up that one. And you can tell it's changed up here. Nothing looks different, but it did change. And I'm going to rename this one Start Game. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that to Start Scene. Or Start Screen. There we go. Start Screen. Happy with that. And before I forget, because I always forget, I'm going to go up to File, Build Settings, and I'm going to drag Start Screen into my stuff. Yeah, there we go. I made sure it was at 0. Your start screen is always going to be 0, right? So that was a pretty simple one to figure out. I'll close out of that. Now, I don't need basically any of this stuff in here, so I'm just going to select it all and hit delete. Because I don't need that. So right now I have just a blank screen. That's fine. Right click on here. We need to create a UI canvas. So it'll all, once again, be very familiar to you. And let's do some button making. So on my canvas, I need to right click on my canvas, go to UI, and go to button. Now, last time all we did really was we played with the colors of the buttons. We played with the placement of the buttons. We changed the text to a Text Mesh Pro text, maybe, if you chose to do that. But this time, let's do a little bit more with our button. So you'll notice that it does have an image on it. If you turn off the image, it's that white box in the background. And the world is full of wonderful asset makers who have made a whole bunch of UI scripts, and one of them, of course, is Kenny, who we've been using for this project. So I actually have gone and done a little bit of research and decided that I want to use this one because it kind of matches the theme of the rest of my project. This one is not one of the free ones that you'll find on the main website right here. Whenever I search for UI stuff here, So if I go to assets and I just search for UI, I could of course settle with any of these. This one is, simple and fine. And if you want to use this one, great. Go ahead and use it. If you want to use one of the colorful ones, if that matches your theme better, that's fine too. That one that I'm going to use, you do have access to, like I've said before, I bought all of the Kenny game asset packs. So the additional extra game stuff that he provides to people who support him, you do have access to. So to get to that, if you go to your Google Classroom, and on the Kenny asset packs, there's an asset packs Google Drive folder. And the one that I am using, if you are interested in it, but of course you can use whatever one you want. Maybe you want to use this one. That's cool. That one's kind of a rusticy looking one, would be fun. Um, that particular interface kit is from Asset Pack 3, which if you hover over the name, that kind of cuts it off, but Kenny Game Assets 3, if you download that and unzip it, you'll have that information there. There are tons of other options. You could go to Craft Picks. There were a bunch of UI stuff there. Let's just demo that real quick. Let me find where I want to go. Let's use this tab. So if we go to craftpicks.net, and look for, let's look at their freebies because I'm pretty sure they have some on the first page here. Buttons, 2D game items, lots of buttons. So if you click on that, you can free download. Obviously, you don't want to unlock the download by spending money, but that's a lot of really cool looking buttons also. And basically, any type of theme you could probably work with these. So basically, what I'm saying is there's tons of free resources. Google, look for stuff that you want, or make your own. If you have experience with making stuff in, I don't know, you could use Paint if you want, or Photoshop, go ahead and do that. Happy for you. But I'm going to use this pack. So, because I missed out on showing you how to import stuff before, I'm going to just take this interface pack that I know I'm going to use and drag it into my stock folder. And it's going to take a minute while it processes all of that information. Boop, boop, boop. All right, and now it's the interface pack, and I'm going to look at the PNGs. I'm going to use default size because I'm not really worried about Retina displays right now. You could obviously if you really wanted to. I do want one of the more industrial looking ones, so I'm going to kind of scroll through this list until I find one. I don't want a panel. Did I miss it? I know I found one that I wanted to use earlier. Oh, button. Button rectangle metal. That's a little button. We'll see how it looks. Yeah, I'm going to use this. Oh, nope, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to click on button. I'm going to hit this little lock so I don't accidentally lose it while I am dragging things over. And let's just drag this over onto UI Sprite. Now, that doesn't look great, right? Maybe I'll try the Retina display one after all and see if that one looks better. So, boop. A little bit cleaner. Not great. What's this? Banner modern. Maybe that one? Kind of like that. Let's look at this hanging bin. Yeah, that's cool looking, but not really going with my theme. So you get the point. Basically just trial and error, figure out exactly what you want. I just dragged the same one on there twice. I like that one, I think. Yeah. I think I'm going to mess with the color a little bit, see if I can get this maybe a little bit of a different look to it. I do want it a little bit more, maybe blue? Don't want it darker though. I'm not sure exactly what I want to do yet, but I'll probably tweak that later and I'll do a little bit more of the tweaking off camera. But yeah, now we've got a button that looks cool instead of just a plain button. And of course, text-wise, if you want to use the regular text, you can. And before we use Text Mesh Pro for our text, and it looks very crisp and clean, but if you don't want to use Text Mesh Pro, you can just use the regular text and import any font you want. So let's find my fonts folder. Where do I keep those on my Mac? Nope. None of those are helpful. And my computer is very angry about life. So I'm going to deal with that again later off camera whenever I'm not trying to teach you things. Let's rename our stuff while we're here. So make this our start button. And this our start. Oh, let me unlock it so I'm actually editing the text and not the button. Don't forget to do that. Start text. And obviously we want this to say start game. And let's, the text is probably fine. Maybe let's make it a little bit bigger. And I think I'll leave it in the center of the screen. I'm kind of okay with that position for now. And yeah, okay, so let's grab our button. And remember, whenever we did our other game, to give our button functionality, we had to create an object that held our script for our scene loader. So let's here up at the top, create an empty. We'll rename this empty scene loader. And I'm going to drag it out because it decided it wanted to be underneath of something else and I don't need it to be. And I'm going to come over here to my scripts, grab my scene loader script and attach it to my scene loader object, like so. And now on my button, if I come down here to my button, remember the on click, the list is empty. So I'm going to add something to it. It's looking for an object, so I could click the selector, or I could just grab the scene loader object and throw it in here. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to grab the scene loader object. I'm going to drag it down to my prefabs because I'm going to need access to that throughout this game. So back to my button. Scroll down here, got my scene loader object. It has no function, but scene loader is now an option on here. And for our start game, we wanted to load the next scene, right? We wanted to go from the start level to whatever is after the start level. So load next scene. Simple, straightforward, and I think you're pretty capable of doing all that stuff, but that's your reminder. Go ahead and take some time to make a quit button as well. I'm going to just boop, 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 do that real quick. Call this quit button. And that functionality is obviously going to be not load next scene, it's going to be quit game. And I need it to not say start text, I want it to say quit text. And I want it to say quit. And I need to add probably a logo or something, but again, not something you need to see because you know how to right-click on your canvas, add a text mesh pro text or a text, and create a title for your screen. So I'm going to do all that later. But for right now, let's double check that all of this works. So I did add this to my build settings, right? Let's double check. Start screen, level 1, level 2, perfect. Now if I hit start or hit play, and click on start, it goes to the first scene. Hooray! And then it goes to the next scene, and then nothing happens there. So we need to set up some death functionality. But perfect. Now let's go ahead and make our end scene. So let's take our start screen and duplicate it. Control D. And let's rename it by clicking slowly. Call it game over. And we don't need the start game button. We probably need to change our start game button to play again, right? That's what we did before. So now you probably notice I don't put spaces between the titles of things just out of, I don't know, some weird habit I've developed. I don't really have an explanation for it, but you can. It doesn't hurt anything to put space between things. I'm just weird. I just use my capitalization and it's easy enough for me to read that it's never bothered me. Let's change this to play again. Question mark. And we need to change our button. If we click on our button, and we've got that hooked up, but we need to change it from load next scene because there's nothing after game over to play again, which would take us back to 0. So we've got scene flow, we've got it figured out. Perfect. There's lots of different stuff you can do to tweak this. You can change all your fonts, and I encourage you to do that because it's nice whenever you're building a game to just have something that looks polished as you're working on it. So you're just kind of like, oh, this looks like a real game already. This is great. You feel so good about it. So, real quick, before I forget, let's go up to our file build settings and let's add game over right there. Perfect. Now we have start screen, level 1, level 2, and game over. Here's what I want you to do before you move on. Now you have your game flow all set up. You've scavenged your script from your number guess game, added buttons, and given those buttons the functionality, which is kind of a quick review, but it should be old hat. You should be able to figure that out in the future on your own. It's not super crazy hard. You maybe even decided to not have a button background and just use really cool text for your buttons. That's fine. Because as you can tell, if you take this image script off, you could just have text there and it would still be a button, right? So this is all personal preference. But between this video and the next video, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and set up so that you have 3 levels of your game. Call them, level 1, level 2, level 3. Have your start screen, your game over screen. Put them all together. Try to make your levels maybe like progressing difficulty. They don't have to be, too crazy difficult yet because we're going to add a lot of things to it. And change a lot of things, but it's always nice to practice the level flow a little bit, and make sure that your game is kind of got all of its base stuff down, and then we will move on to the how the ball will trigger death whenever it goes through the bottom, and we go to our game over screen. We'll get that script figured out, which if you want a challenge, if you want to figure out how to do that before the next video, go for it. There are probably multiple answers to that question, so you can do it however you please. And between this video and the next video, I will polish mine up a little bit and make it look pretty, and I will see you then.